All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Gonna get back to working on the camper today. It's been a little while since I've made a video. It is summertime and I don't like camping in the summer. It's hot, especially here in the south. So during the day is not too bad. You can usually find like a river or creek to cool down, but at night I hate sleeping when it's warm. I hate sweating. So we're gonna do some upgrades to the camper so that we can actually go out and camp in the summer and still be comfortable. And the first upgrade we're gonna have to do here is gonna be upgrading the battery system in here. So I'm gonna kind of show you what I'm currently using, and then I'll show you what we will be upgrading to. Let's walk inside the camper and see what's currently in there. All right, so currently I'm running or powering the camper off of my Pecron power station. It's their E1500 Pro, which is probably a little over 100 amp hour battery. So I think it's 1500 watt hours, and it has a 1500 watt or maybe even a 2000 watt inverter. I'm not sure, built into there. And it's not bad. It's okay. My camper is like a DIY style camper. So it doesn't really have a lot of power running to anything. Like up top here, currently I have lights, but they are just rechargeable. So I have a couple, like one there, so that's not actually running off power, which I'm going to try and actually upgrade in here too. They're not bad, but I hate trying to recharge them all the time. Like they'll stay pretty bright for a little while and then it's just start kind of dimming, then you gotta recharge them. I just want something to run off the power consistently. So, and then I have a 12 volt Dometic fan that does run off the unit here. And then I did wire in these lights kind of going around here. And that's running off this unit. Power stations are okay, especially for these DIY style like campers. They're okay for normal like tent camping and all that kind of stuff. It's good for a weekend trip, but you can't really run anything high powered, especially DC, off of most of these things. Now this one in particular I did buy because it did have one of the higher DC outputs at the time. So you can run about 30 amps off this DC, which that's kind of how I have it running here right now. So I have that 30 amp wired into a little fuse block, which controls the little lights. I have a little cigarette lighter here for the fridge, a couple USBs, extra USBs, and then the fan does get run into here also. The camper did come with solar, so it has, I believe, it's either a 175 or 200 watt panel on top. And so it was already pre-wired, so I'm kind of already pulling this stuff kind of apart so I can wire it into the new system. But basically it's got solar run into here, so I'm going to integrate that back into the new system. And then this is power running up to the fan, but the fan will be removed. And this also powers CO2 detector, so I'll wire that also back into the system, because this I'm going to actually, since it's pre-wired up to the fan, I'm going to try and run some 12 volt lights off of here, and that all kind of runs all the way around here, and then it runs into the base here. It's hidden through this piece of wood here. So we are going to upgrade this unit. Again, the power stations, they're okay, but if you're going to want to run any kind of heavy 12 volt stuff, you really can't use these, and they're not modular. So this one, I have had issues with it charging both from regular power and from the solar. For some reason, the solar just, it clicks, and it doesn't actually take the charge. So I don't know if it's something wrong internally with it or what. I've tried to reach out to Pecron, but you know, they're like a Chinese company, so it's hard to get hold and let people kind of know what's happening. So let me kind of show you the system that we will be upgrading and putting into the camper here. All right, and so this is what we're going to actually be upgrading the camper with. So I have right now it's a single 300 amp hour. It's one of these Chinese batteries, so it says Nudie Power. I'm not sure how that's even how you pronounce it or not, but it's just their basic lithium battery, Life PO4. But 300 amp hours, so probably about 3 times the size of what my power station is in there right now. But honestly, this one, I went for this one because the size of it, honestly, is not really that big. So I would say this is probably a little smaller than what my power station is in there, and it's got a lot of power on there. It is their basic battery, so it doesn't have like Bluetooth or anything like that, but it does have a little like gauge here on top, and it'll kind of let you know what the battery percentage is, which is pretty nice. But right now I'm going to run this single, but I probably will add a second one, especially seeing the size of it. I did the research and looked at the measurements, and I was kind of trying to find the smallest 300 amp hour battery I could find. And this one came in, and it came in just above 300 bucks. So it's crazy. So the cost of everything here, you definitely could get a power station that probably has pretty good amount of power in it and has everything built in. As you will see, everything separate obviously is going to be much larger package. But the thing is with this is obviously you could always expand the batteries whenever you want. Something goes wrong with one of your chargers or one of your components, you know, it's pretty simple to kind of diagnose. And then if you've got to fix it, or if you've got to send it off or just replace it, you can do that pretty easily yourself. And then on top of it, of course, you just can run a lot more higher draw power stuff with these type of setups. So I am going to run Renogy's. This is a 50 amp DC to DC charger with MPPT. So this will integrate into my solar on the roof. And then I do have some Jackery foldable panels that I can kind of take. So I'm going to be adding in like a little Anderson port to the outside of the camper, where I can kind of plug those in and then piggyback them into this charger also. So that would give me a little bit more solar. Again, on top, I can't remember if I have a 175 watt or a 200 watt panel, but I have two of the 100 watt Jackery panels. So that would give me close to 375, 400 watts of solar. And then from there into there, I also have Renogy's battery shunt. So this will work with Bluetooth and stuff like that. So you can actually see what's happening with the battery as far as charging, your percentage and stuff like that. And then I did also get their, because when I bought the other components, they kind of had this on sale. So I did get their Renogy 1 core, and this is like a little monitor that I can put into the camper. And so this will kind of show me just, you know, wherever I want to mount this, what the battery percentage is, what's the charging and all that kind of stuff at any time. The camper, when I first got it, they did have a generic 2000 watt inverter here. It's not a pure sine wave. So I'm not sure if I'm going to actually use this one or integrate it. I may put one in there because every once in a while you kind of use, maybe you need that 110 power. So I'll probably integrate either that one or one that is a pure sine wave that I will pick up. For shore charging, I picked up Lifetime. It is a 60 amp charger. So once I plug into shore power, I have shore power on the camper. So I have a little Noco plug on here. So if I'm at a campground or something like that, I can plug in there. I can have this with me. Not sure if I'm going to leave it just like permanently mounted into the camper or not. It is pretty large. And it is kind of portable. So basically, there'll be two ends that tie into the battery there, and then you can connect them through an Anderson. And so you don't need to leave this connected all the time. You can kind of disconnect it whenever you want. So not sure how I'm going to do that yet. And then of course I have just some miscellaneous stuff here. So 6-gauge wire to run the DC to DC charger from the truck battery into the camper. We are running the 2-gauge wire with a stud mounted fuse here. That's going to run into a like power switch to kind of control all the power coming in and out of the battery. Another 2-gauge wire, and then I am going to be running the Blue Sea Safety Hub 150, and this will kind of control everything for the DC for small loads, large loads. So you can do up to 4. I can't remember if it's 200 or 300 amp fuses into these posts here if you needed it. So I'll run the power into the main, we'll run the ground, and then you also have 6 little slots for your normal little 12 volt, like up to like 30 amp little fuses or something like that. So we'll use that. And then of course, so that's going to run through the switch into here. This will control all the high amperage stuff, and then ground 2-gauge wire into the shunt, 2-gauge wire into the Blue Sea safety hub, and then everything will get wired into that. But other than that, it will be a pretty simple system. This Renogy, this is the second time I'm using Renogy products in one of my campers. This is their newer style. I had their older style of DC to DC with MPPT, and it worked good. So very easy to kind of set up here. You have one main negative. You'll have a positive that's coming like in from the alternator. You're going to have a positive that's coming in from your PV, which is your solar. And then you'll have the positive out just into your battery. So everything kind of gets wired into there. And this actually is a lot smaller than the other one that I used. And it's got a little bit more power also, which is nice. And then of course we'll have all the right fuses and breakers that we need. But yeah, other than that, we are going to get to wiring. So that's the benefit of having one of these things. If you needed to pull it in and out, it is pretty simple. All right, so first thing is going to be battery placement. So I'm just kind of trying to fit the battery in here right now just to see where we can kind of put it. And it actually fits very, very well, which is awesome. So I definitely can fit 2 of these things side by side, running 600 amp hours in here, which is going to be a ton of power. Still have a lot of room around the battery. And then even if I have a second one in here, I still have this whole kind of section over here for storage, which will be nice. And then some of the components, I'm thinking obviously probably running against the back wall. And then DC to DC, I'm probably going to have coming out of the wall here. So we'll kind of see how much space we have when we get this stuff kind of all mocked up in here. But yeah, really, really happy with the size of this battery. 300 amp hours. It's massive and very small for its size. All right, so I kind of got it laid out and mocked up here of how it's going to kind of look like. Sorry if you can hear that outside. It just started raining, so I had to close my garage door. But basically, battery will sit here on this side, obviously flat. This is going to be laid up against the back of the camper there. So main negative will run to the battery. Main positive will also run to the battery. They will not touch, but they will kind of cross over, which I'm not real excited about that part. But this kind of, I bought built wires, so at about 1 foot each for the larger like 2-gauge wires. So I can only kind of go a certain route and so far and that kind of stuff. So those 2 will go through, and then I have the main, obviously from battery. It will have a terminal fuse, and then it runs into the switch to turn on all the power to everything, and then switch down into the safety hub power. And then this is kind of right up against the DC-DC, but I'm going to get a piece of like a little plastic ring that you use to kind of like hold wires in place and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of move that away, so that'll be fine. And then main negative into the battery shunt into the safety hub 150, DC to DC, and also the MPPT. And then one more on and off switch. So this will go into the solar. So solar will come in through here, on and off, so I can turn it on and off, and then solar into this, into the charger. And then you have your main. So this is going to have to run from inside the camper outside into the truck. So I am going to hook up a Anderson connector on the outside, run this to the outside of the camper, and then have it run all the way to the truck. This is, the brown is the main power to the charger. So I am going to have it run here. Let me unpop this here so you can kind of look at this here real quick. Okay, and so this is how the safety hub looks like. So the main power I'll have this run into one of the main power bus bars here, and then I am going to probably put a 60 or 70 watt fuse here. I do have also a 60 amp breaker that's going to go onto the truck side next to the battery. So it'll kind of be double fused, double breakered. But no harm in that. So that'll go in there, and then only power kind of when it's hooked up to the truck. And then it'll have its main ground here for the charger also. And that will come to this side of the ground of the hub. I'm going to kind of make the wires all nice and neatly run. So most of them are going to kind of run. These are going to kind of run this way along the bottom of the charger. And then of course one is going to run to the outside for that Anderson connector to connect to the truck. This one, I'll kind of make this one neatly wire into the on and off switch. But that's pretty much it. I have a 150 amp terminal fuse for the battery that will go directly into the safety hub. I'm not sure if that is big enough. I may get a 200 amp because I'm not a professional at this, so I'm not an expert, so I don't know for sure between current running which way and all that kind of stuff. So if I'm pumping in 50 amps into this, say I'm doing this at the same time, and then I also have, say, maybe 70 amps coming out of this. I don't know if that kind of equals out each other, or you add them together, and so now I have maybe 120 amps, which still would be, you know, within range of that 150 amp, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm gonna run probably the 150 just to see how it runs and make sure everything looks good. If for some reason, if I had like everything on all at once and it was popping it, I may or may not go to a bigger one. Honestly, everything's probably not going to be on all at the same time anyway, but that's kind of how it's going to look. Throw this into the camper and kind of show you what it's going to look like. All right, so this is kind of what it's going to look like. I just have it kind of laid up against the wall. I don't have it mounted yet or anything, so it's tilted at a little bit of an angle. But I have my one battery here with plenty of room to put a second battery kind of right here next to it. And then even with that, I should have all this room of storage over here. And so if I needed to, I'm probably going to remove that fuse block and wire, of course, whatever's there, which is like my cigarette lighter, my plug for my diesel heater, and the lights that are kind of mounted up underneath here. That will all get mounted to the Blue Sea hub. And so I have this whole wall that I can put the inverter on if I wanted to. But then I also wanted to be able to still fit like the bucket in here that I use basically if I have to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. But then that stays kind of hidden and out of the way here. And I still will have room for the second battery. And everything is nicely laid out up against the wall. All right, guys. So I'm kind of getting closer to the end of wiring it up. It is another day. It is taking me a couple days to actually get it finished just because I was missing some odds and ends here. I did get the truck wired up. So in the truck bed, I have Anderson plug, running my 6-gauge wire, obviously all the way to the front to the engine bay. And then inside here is run this Anderson plug that plugs into the camper for the truck connection. And I'm gonna run it kind of right here on the side. And this kind of little thing will keep it kind of waterproof, kind of water resistant. So we'll go ahead and drill the hole, put that in, and then start permanently kind of mounting the board, and I'll kind of show you other stuff I have in there. All right, guys, so project's definitely taking longer than I expected, but I'm just missing odds and ends here. But I should be wrapping it up here now pretty soon. I got the DC to DC outlet here wired and drilled through, and so it kind of just plugs in right there, and then that goes in the front of the camper attached to the front of the truck bed. And then on the back side here I added another one, and so this one is also wired in now, and this one's got a 12-volt cigarette lighter plug so I can run the Starlink outside, and then it also has the Anderson to run the portable solar panels. And then that is all kind of run inside here. The camper already had like a little track of hidden wires. It hides like right behind this piece of wood. It basically just screws back in there, and it is grooved out to cover the wires. So that will look all clean. And then in here, pretty much everything is set to get wired up now. So I got the DC to DC 6 gauge running in here, the solar, and all the 12 volt stuff in here running. So now, and then I think I'm going to keep this fuse block here just because it's already kind of pre-wired into stuff, and then I'm actually going to wire some more stuff into it. But I'm ready to drop in the whole kind of wall piece here with all the electronics in it here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that, and that should be the final wire in now. All right guys, so we finally got the camper all wired up. Let me kind of show you what it looks like for the final result. All right, so in here, again, we got our 300 amp hour lithium battery. Fits in here perfectly. And then again, if I want to stick a second one in here, I do have plenty of room for that. And then we have everything all mostly nicely wired up. Of course, you can always do a little bit cleaner, probably better, but that's okay. It looks pretty good for now. So coming from the outside here, that's where that DC to DC charger connection is coming through. So we're running it straight to the ground on the battery. And then it runs to the power on the Blue Sea safety hub. 2 gauge wire running into the battery shunt from Renogy, and then 2 gauge wire also running into the battery switch, and then down into the Blue Sea safety hub. We have the DC to DC charger here all wired up. Also solar is wired right now, but I'm going to push the camper outside just to be sure that it is actually working. I have not tested that yet. The charger is on. It does show blue light for lithium, and the battery light is on, so it does mean it's connected and it is detecting a battery. These other 2 lights will come on when either the DC to DC is on or the solar is on. We got another switch here for the actual solar, so I can cut it on and off. This battery charger has the MPPT built into it. I had their previous version, and it's a 50 amp. But the only way to really get 50 amps through here when you're like DC to DC charging is to have the solar cut off, because it will try to prioritize the solar. But then even if you're not getting 25 amps of solar, this thing only puts out 25 amps of DC to DC charging when they're both like on together. So if you want full 50 amp, you turn your solar off, and when you're driving, you get the full 50 amps running through here. Again, everything is mounted to this board here, which I have just screwed into the back wall. We have the Blue Sea safety hub, and this has so far all my fuses and everything in it. So this is running like a bus bar, so all the positives and main negatives are running through here. I have 2 big fuses in here right now. One to run straight through the DC to DC charger, and I have 2 other slots open for some other things. If I want to run like an inverter or something like that, I can fuse it through here. And then I have another fuse already wired up because I have a positive and negative running from here to this other side, which has this original fuse block that I had that kind of controls these lights that I have in here now. It also controls my diesel heater, my fridge plug, and now it is also controlling the Renogy 1 core monitor, which I'll kind of show you too. But I just decided to leave all this because it was already kind of pre-wired, so I just ran 2 positives and negatives from the safety hub into here, and it just keeps everything kind of nice. So everything's over here and out of the way. And then I do have the big, this is for like your shore power. It's a 60 amp charger that you just plug in, and that is wired directly also into the safety hub, and it comes with this Anderson connector. So you can connect it, so you can quick disconnect or connect if you want to. And again, this thing, it may or may not stay in here just because I won't be all the time at like a campground or somewhere that has power. Also, to show you on the main power, I am also running a fuse directly on the post here, and that is 150 amp fuse powering everything through here. Let me show you the Renogy 1 core monitor, and that is here. And so I have it mounted up. Looks super clean. This gives you a bunch of like live data. So basically it's showing my battery is at 99%, currently drawing 1.7 amps with the lights on and stuff like that. It tells you how much time you have remaining and your voltage. It also gives you time and date. It is connected to my Wi-Fi at home right now, so if you have it connected to Wi-Fi in your camper, you can view everything through the Renogy app also, kind of from anywhere, which is pretty neat. And then again, I have everything that's wired from the outside. So my Anderson for my portable solar panels, and the power for the 12 volt cigarette lighter for the Starlink. Everything kind of runs from the outside into here. This is also, I had to run this kind of small little wire just to get the power for the Renogy 1. But everything hides through this channel and then comes through here. And then you can kind of see it. Then it fishes all the way around, keeping it nice and clean. But that is the whole setup. All right, so we got it pushed out. We got pretty good sunlight. There is kind of a lot of clouds in the sky today. Kind of one hovering over right now. But it should be enough to actually turn on the solar and make sure that it is working. So let's see here. Let's hit the switch. All right, took a second, but the solar light is on now. So it is registering. And let's see how much we are actually getting. So currently 5.6 amps from the panel up there. And it is drawing 1.7 from the batteries. So let's kind of see what that is. And again, it's kind of shady over it right now, but so it's drawing into about 100 watts actually. And it's kind of shady. The clouds are over. And again, I think the panel up top is either 175 or 200. So this probably will go up. So that's pretty cool. And then the last thing we are going to check is we are going to plug in our portable solar panels in here. Not sure if you can see that or not because of the sun, but we're going to plug it in here and see if those also work to take solar. All right, so I got the two Jackery panels laid out. Not getting direct sunlight. We got a big cloud above us right now. Again, they just run straight into this Anderson port here through the Jackery plugs. And let's kind of see here. Okay, so let me show you here. So now with those two smaller panels plugged in and the larger one, the cloud kind of passed over a little bit, so there's a little bit more sun out. So it is getting about 15 amps getting in here. So that is, let's do some math here. So about 200 watts. So I think in direct sunlight, we probably should be able to see 300 watts maybe with full sun, no clouds and all that kind of stuff. Because currently the panel up top again is either a 175 or 200, and those are two individual 100s. So we're looking at 375, 400 watts. Right now, 200 watts coming in is nice. I'm probably going to add a secondary 200 watt panel to the roof just to help get it over that 200 watts. If I can kind of get a solid 300 plus watts in through just solar while the camper is just sitting, that would be pretty good. All right, so I am a fan of the DIY battery systems. The all-in-ones, of course, are good. They are a simple setup. They have everything built into them. But again, if anything happens, there's no way of you kind of really working on it. I mean, unless you kind of tear it apart. But then you got to kind of know their schematics of how they have everything kind of done inside those boxes. And again, most of them don't give you the ability to run big 12 volt power draws from them. So that's the big downfall from them. A lot of them are getting DC to DC chargers, which is good for charging those on the road, because usually it was always just through cigarette lighters, which would take literally forever. You couldn't really do it that way. It kind of just maintains whatever the current battery state is. So those are kind of getting advanced that way. But until they kind of give you at least like 100 amp DC draw out of them, I think for like campers and that kind of stuff, they're good just as a secondary or just a backup system to have. So I may carry that one or the smaller one with me that I have, just because it does have a inverter in it already. So if I did want to run any kind of 110 stuff, normally it's just going to be something quick, you know, a rice cooker or something like that. So I don't need to carry really an inverter probably with me all the time. But yeah, anyway, that is the system. I'm super happy with it. It is super modular. I can upgrade it, I can change it, I can do whatever I want with it. It definitely is a little bit larger of a system, but the battery capacity on this one is really crazy. So big 300 amp hour, room for a secondary 300 amp hour. And then let me kind of give you a glimpse of what we are setting this battery system up for. All right, so give you a quick glimpse here. So Out-Equip Pro, rooftop, low profile air conditioner, so 12 volt. That's what's going to be in the next video. We'll be replacing the fan and adding this so we can do some summer camping and not die and sleep miserably. All right, guys, so like and subscribe, follow along. There should be more videos coming soon.